we'll go ahead and start installing our grill panel. These are very expensive reproduction. I've already got the lower one installed. The early cars, it was a one piece and it all slid down in there. So the little bit later ones were a two piece like this. And the early ones had a slant in the grill. These are the later ones that are straight. Got a AMK fastener kit for the grill. Correct pop rivets, clips, and bolts for cars 200 and up.
This Shelby is number 2061, so that is later than number 200.
Wow, that's pretty detailed.
And got the two upper bolts and clips, and then the pop rivets. This is also for the lower grill as well, which I've already installed. This grill actually just takes 2 rivets and 2 bolts. First thing I'll do is install the clips. Latch support was bent, so I cut the support brackets off. These held your inboard lamps and welded to another original latch support. And this is just a regular Mustang piece right here. And then they went in there and you can see where they welded it right in here. They just get like a MIG weld and added this bracket. We have new bulbs with the Fomoco logo on them, and then polished out the trim rings, and new hardware and AMK fastener. So these have the correct fastener and that mounts the headlight bucket to the bracket with all the correct plating. Engine bay is pretty much ready for the engine. Got all the wiring ran, all the correct holders and stuff for the wiring. Got the correct voltage read. This is from AMK as well, so it has all the correct markings, correct fasteners and coatings. The painted area, the auto light is silk screened on, just as original. And same way with the starter solenoid. It has the correct part number, auto light, correct finishes. It's from AMK. Shelby piece is this little junction block right here. They added this little junction block for the amp gauge that mounts under the dash. Then here you can see we've noted the heater blower motor bracket. As they were lowering the engine in, if the engine shifted, it would tear up the blower motor. It hit this bracket, protect it. Super rare. Usually they were removed on assembly line. And then I've installed the new heater box, restored it. We have the correct NOS hoses for it. We also have the correct gas line with the correct markings on it, correct clamps. The steering box, I restored it, put on new bearings in it, rebuilt the box. It's got a brand new slave cylinder for the power steering. Of course, we've got a new master cylinder, rebuilt brake booster. These are the original hood hinges with the original low tension springs.
Wow, those are small. Is that because the hood was a lot lighter?
Yeah, lighter hood, and it kept it from cracking it out.
So many special parts and changes on a Shelby.
These are the same springs that were used from 65 all the way like 70.
And look at the Shelby spring.
Yeah, that's about half the size. And I have all the windshield washer equipment run. So I have the nozzles, the hoses, the new tank. This is the correct tank. This is an early tank, so it don't have the Fomoco logo on it. This is how majority of the cars were done. They were finished in a black, and then as they painted it, the overspray just blew around and through the scoops. Probably see some cars that the bottom was actually painted. That was on their show cars and cars for magazines. So it makes a little bit of a controversy on people arguing between, because they'll say, well, I seen original photos of the car and the bottom of the hood was painted body color. Well, that's why, because they did that for photo shoots and for car shows. The production cars were done like this. And same way with the trunk lids. The trunk lids are actually have the overspray blown in around the edges with a black fiberglass on the bottom.
Getting original versus repro, reproduction, how do you look at that?
A lot of the reproduction hoods are very nice quality reproductions. You can't tell them a lick apart. If you need a hood, you need a hood. So it's better to go with the reproduction. A lot of the original hoods, especially these fiberglass backed ones, over the years they're going to be hit and the heat will warp them, so they have a tendency to be higher in the middle in the fender due to the hood and of course the heat from the engine and from the sun will actually put a bow in them. This is a hand-laid hood, so it's a little more correct, but you get a little more waves in the finished product. If you go with a vacuum form hood, they're way better than the original hoods as far as straightness and fit, but you don't have the concourse side of it.
Now these hood pins, I remember when we pulled the originals out of the box.
Here's an original hood pin. That's kind of cool. That's the original Shelby part right there.
Are these the ones we pulled out of the box?
These are the reproduction ones, and there's some benefits to these over the originals. For instance, this pin right here on the original one is a chrome steel. This is stainless steel, so it'll always look this good. The cables are concourse. They're an exact cable to the T. You cannot tell one lick of difference. They have the same plastic coating. They have the same end on them, the same high quality stainless pin. The plate is pop riveted on as original and as a stainless steel circle. When a lot of times the original ones were actually a chrome plated steel, which had the tendency to corrode and pit. These will always look that good.
And then this hood scoop is functional, right?
Yeah, it is a functional, draws air right into the air cleaner. And these hoods are also very lightweight compared to the steel hoods. Probably knocks a good 10-15 pounds difference. That's why you have to have the low tension springs. And they do latch as original, and they do have the hood pins. So this is normally where the hood pin would be on most any other car, right where the bumper is. And then they have it way out here. They use these white Scotch locks. The Scotch locks are splicers, and they were in a white color, and that's where they spliced in the wiring harness for the inboards and just added them to the outboard or the factory lamps and spliced them in. They did this on the taillight harness as well, and they did that on the under dash pod. Also here we have the power steering cooler that Shelby added. They actually drilled 2 extra holes, usually from a Galaxy 500 power steering cooler. Probably 80s reproduction.
In the 1980s, the owners were rounding up parts for restoration
Oh,
for their Shelby in a barn.
So it had a little surface rust, so I did have to repaint it. These are easy install. They got a pop rivet at the bottom corner, a bolt at the corner, a bolt at the top. The only thing you got to be careful putting it in the car. You just want to ease it in there, let it fall into place. Watch the edges on it. I want to get one bolt started, then I'll pop the rivets. Then we'll have to kind of tweak it around and get it completely fastened. The pop rivets that hold it in, just a basic pop rivet, but they have a bullseye pattern. Most modern rivets are smooth. This has a kind of a rigid, looks like a record. They're just a black pop rivet. These are also the same pop rivets that hold the nose cone to the inner brace.
that means once it's popped in, you can't pop it out.
Yeah, you'd have to drill them. I'll get pop rivet gun. This is just a Craftsman. Slide that in there and you squeeze it, and it actually pulls that pin up through and expands the body of the rivet until it can't go no further, and then it makes a pops. And you've got to be careful sometimes when you're in a spot when that pin will pop out of there and it can chip your paint. So we'll go ahead and pop those. The holes are lined. These are actually the original holes. I didn't have to drill new holes. Where the grill was actually mounted. So this reproduction, these brackets are right on the money. And it's important to use the AMK or the correct ones, because when you do see them, as you can shine the light through here, you can see the rivets for judging. You can tell the bullseye pattern on them. Yeah, this one here holds the nose cone to the inner brace, and then this one here holds the grill and the nose cone all to the inner brace. And then the lower grill here has pop rivets, and it kind of free hangs and is pop riveted to the inner brace.
Wow, that is beautiful grill.
Now you just install the upper bolts and tighten them down. pull a little bit, tweak it a little.
When a cat that's interested in cars shows up at the shop, we name that cat Shelby. Doesn't happen very often.
Then these trim rings are removable to adjust the headlamps. Once you get power to the car, you can adjust the beam of the headlamps.
Oh boy, the moment I've been waiting for. The grille's done. Jason lowers that hood. That design is what really sets off the 67 as the best looking Mustang ever, Shelby or otherwise.
Now is that the corner of the hood not down over here?
Yeah, I did. The bolt's hitting right there on that corner. Grind a little off of that and refinish it.
First time you shut it, huh?
Yeah, with the grill in it and that bolt. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, right here.
That'll come down once it's not hit. Repaint it black.
To what?
It's hitting right there.
You have to grind that?
Yeah. Hitting this bolt that I just put in, so it's only probably not even 1/8 of an inch.
Gotta fine tune it, huh?
Yeah, it's always modifying everything, especially on a Shelby.
And these headlights are smaller than stock, right?
Yeah, they're a lot smaller.
Is there another bezel that goes around there or something? Is that it?
No, that's how they are. All the fiberglass keeps the fit and finish not as good as the steel parts.
As seen on this 1967 Mustang GT Fastback.
And we're going to start from scratch. So we'll put all the components back together and get a complete seat.
So you do your own upholstery, right, Jason?
I do the upholstery, but I don't make the covers. I usually buy from TMI because they have the correct grains and stitching and stuff as original. Here's one of their seat frames. It's a driver's side. It's been blasted and I painted it. This is what I start out with. It's just a burlap, and you can get these at most fabric stores. MPD sells it. Usually about 2 to 3 yards will do a complete car. But that's what we'll start out with on putting our seat covers on. And we'll just lay it out real close and trim it and hog ring it. These are the hog rings, and they're kind of like a staple. Yeah, these are very cheap. You can get them online. That's like 200 of them. And it runs like $3, $4. Special pair of pliers for the hog rings. These pliers are spring loaded, so they hold the hog ring in place until you get ready to crimp it. And then as you crimp it around the upholstery, it makes a ring that holds. Then we have all the wires that go in the upholstery for the details. We'll start with installing this burlap first. You can just trim around the edge of the springs. Kind of hog ring it in a few spots, keep it in place. It's not something you gotta permanently put like a whole bunch of these things around, because you're gonna put the edge welting around, which is the felt. I just want to kind of tack this in place. The original burlap had little wires, and you can, usually they're really rusty and they're just crumbling, but if they're still intact, you can actually put the old burlap on top of this burlap and have the little wires that run through it, give you a little extra detail. Most of the time though, they're so rusted and gone, especially if these seats have seen any moisture or been in the weather. With some hog rings here and there to get it to hold in place while you put the felt around it. The edge padding, you put this around the edge to basically protect the foam as you're sitting on it, moving on it. It keeps this edge from digging in all the way through the foam. So this gives it a little extra padding. It's got 2 grooves, and the rings just fit in those 2 grooves.
Oh.
The spring in it makes it nice because it holds it in place. The kit from MPD actually doesn't give a piece across the front, so I'm going to cut and make a piece to go across this front to pad it. This is actually what they call jupe, kind of like a recycled rags that they grind up and make a pad out of. They actually use this for carpet underlayment as well. This is basically like a moving blanket, but it's the same jupe. It's a little thinner, so I'll actually cut 2 pieces of it and double. There's wires that run and then hog ring to the springs. It pulls the bolsters and stuff around. These are the original wires. You want to make sure when you tear them down, you want to save these, because you can't buy them or anything. If they're rusted and gone, you'll have to make them from scratch. You'll lay them out, tweak them where you need to set in here.
But you don't blast these or anything?
Now they're actually wrapped in a kind of like a cloth, gives them a little cushion. Now if you have to make them, you can get a stiff wire and just make them from scratch if they're rusted and gone. They have to be directly under these grooves for the detail. You hog ring these directly to your springs. These are very important to get these in the exact right locations. Usually on these ends where they have these J hooks, you want to for sure put 2.
There are 3 wires per seat?
3 wires for the base, and then you have 1 big horseshoe shaped one for the upper backrest area. Getting all the wires installed and in the right places, it almost takes more time than anything. Man, I missed it twice. Okay, the foam, it just kind of slips around the edge. That's why we put this edge guard. You just kind of slip it around, and the foam's installed, and then we'll start doing the upholstery. Our foam on, here's what the bottom side will look like. You get to see the nice burlap, and of course once the upholstery's on, you see even less of it. Okay, there's one at our top, or no, start on the backrest. This is the same procedure with the burlap and the wires, edging, and then the foam. Kind of tack it in place, and then I'll pull the foam back off, and then put a few hog rings all the way around it. Install a backrest foam. Make sure our wire's still in the same spot. Good. Now we're done with that. Now we'll start prepping out the upholstery. The wire runs into this. This is actually hog ringed into the channel, and then we fold the upholstery over and around and hog ring that to the back side. what we need to do now, we'll actually open up this channel by snipping these corners because they sew them up. So you have to snip these corners here. You want to be careful not to nick the upholstery. Open these up. This wire is usually a 1-piece, or you can do it in a 2-piece. It's a little easier doing a 2-piece or actually a 3-piece because you can actually get it around. A 1-piece is kind of a pain to get it all the way around. There usually need some help. If you have some help, the 1-piece is good. If you don't have any help, then do it in a 3-piece. And here's our wires. These are actually the wires out of it. They were bent in there like that, and then they had a wire going across. Most of the time, that's a big, long 1-piece that goes around there. I actually pulled all those wires out of all the old seat covers.
So does that go halfway up to the middle point?
You can do it. That's how I'm actually going to do it because it makes it easier to install. Okay, put the wires in. Now we need to put the medallion on. The location of the medallion is actually still in the foam, so you can actually use that as a measurement point, and that's how I put one on, and then I'm going to match it to the other. This is the plate and the medallion. So we got to figure out exactly where this goes and center it up. So you can measure from like right here. See where the holes were originally. Then we can measure to the top of that. About 6 1/4. I'm just double checking on my measurements. You only get one shot at this. And I'm also trying to mirror it to the other seat so that they're both identical. Get right in the center of that pattern. It's level. Okay. It snaps in, but since this is original, you gotta push them down a little bit to make sure they're holding good. Okay.
Well, that looks nice, doesn't it?
Little extra insurance. I broke the pin. That's the problem when you use original stuff sometimes, unless it's NOS. But the opportunity of this is we can actually compare this original one to a repo and see the detail in the difference. So I'll grab a new repo one. Okay, here's a new one. It's Scott Drake. The difference. The original has the part number, which the repo has the part number. The original has the FOMO code. The new one don't. And of course you can see the chrome quality is far superior on the repo. This has of course the wear of your clothing rubbing on it over the years.
This stud probably won't break off, right?
Yeah, this stud won't break off. And beefier than the original as well. There's nothing wrong with the original parts, they're original, but this reproduction stuff is far superior on quality than the original stuff. They always say they don't build it like they used to, no, they build it better. I'm gonna go ahead and put the extra backing plates on there just to make sure, because the original one, they when you pull them out, it bends those little tabs, and I don't want to take a chance of that popping out.
The car wasn't driven enough to. The original foam's still good.
These backing plates here, you actually can't get these. They don't reproduce them. Okay, you got to turn them inside out. Access the wires. You want to position it. That's probably the hardest part. And we're hovering the basically the wire to the wire. So the wire that's in the upholstery, you want to hovering it to the wire that's under the foam. And sometimes finding that can be a bit challenging. And when you do find it, catching it can be a pain as well. Just like that. And you want to put about 3 across the sides and about 3 across the top.
It takes strong hands, right?
Yeah, it does. When you do a lot, you'll start cramping your hands. I usually like to put one right in each of the upper corners, one in the middle. Hogging the wires to the wires for the detail, you can start pulling the upholstery around. You want to be careful not to rip the upholstery. Breaking some more hog rings apart, and we'll start hog ringing the upholstery around the back side. Once I get it around, for the most part, I take it off the table and I like to put it on a pad or a cloth on the floor. And this allows you to put your knee on it and actually pull it. You get it a lot tighter by doing that than working on a bench. Work it, get it close as possible. You basically get it as tight as you can pull it where you hog ring it. You don't want it too tight or too loose, but you actually hog ring it to the springs. And when you pull it to get it to the point where you're going to hog ring it, it's usually plenty tight. Flip it over and see how it's looking. Work it. There's a few light wrinkles in it. When you put it in the sun, they'll come out. Takes a lot of hog rings. I think the 250 to 300 hog rings to do one car. Yeah, it's looking real good. I like a lot of these little light wrinkles here. If this is what your result is turning into, these once you put it some heat, this will absolutely be absolutely perfect with just a little bit of heat on it. So that's what you want it, where you have flex, where you don't sit in it and you rip it. You want some play, but you want it tight as well. So it's kind of like a happy medium. It's a simple procedure to do this, and depending on how backed up the upholstery shop, you might take a month to get your seats back. So you can do it yourself and take pride in your own car, and you're more with your own car on building it, and you learn a skill. I actually learned how to do this because of that very reason. I took my first car I ever did, took them to a upholstery shop. Well, they wouldn't even put them on. They turned it down, wouldn't even do it. And I had TMI covers, this back in the 90s, and they said, oh, those don't fit, they're crap. Well, we can make them. I'm like, no, I gave good money for that. I want these, and I've done the research. They wouldn't put them on. So I took them home and figured it out. So nobody's ever taught me how to do this. I've never read anything, I just figured it out. That's how I learned how to do upholstery.
What car was that on?
That was on my 68 Fastback, blue car. And that's our backrest. We'll put this out in the sun, and once it gets a little heat on it, this thing will look perfect. Putting them out in the sun's the easiest way to get them hot without melting something with a heat gun. Let that set for an hour or so. Foam installed. Then we're gonna start installing the upholstery. And this is also just like the backrest. Got to turn it inside out. Then we'll install the wires, rotate it around, and hog ring the bottom.
Same procedure.
Same procedure, a little bit different on hog rigging the bottom. It's got the same areas for the wires. This area here will have to be trimmed, cut, and then a wire installed through it. We'll trim that first. Start installing the wires.
Those don't loop around the top, do they?
No, that's what makes this a lot easier. It doesn't loop all the way around the curve area. Just like the top, go through the edge and grab the wire that's under that we installed earlier. These are a little tighter than the top, so sometimes you'll miss it a few times.
You're grabbing the wire down there, right?
Yeah. Strong hands and patience. It's sometimes trying to find that wire in there can be a pain. Especially if you have new foam. If you have new foam, you've got to cut slots to even get through it because the new foam's way thicker and harder to find the wire. Okay, I got all the sides hog ring. Now I'm going to loop the upholstery back around and start doing the bottom. These bottoms are a bit tricky. You got to be careful where the seams are not to rip them. Especially back here, right here, they'll want to rip. You got to be careful with those. Now the pegs right here where the backrest mounts, you don't cut those until it's all the way on. You get it hog ringed, and then you go back and exit. This is the stud for the backrest mount.
Okay.
So you don't want to ever cut those until you're pretty much done. And it's a lot easier once you get it to this point, put it on the floor. You can put your knee on it and push the spring and compress it, and it gives you a better grip. And it'll come around a lot easier than trying to do it on a bench. It's just almost, for me, it's impossible to do it on a bench. That goes so much easier when it's on the floor. This is enjoyable, but at the same time, it can be a little frustrating. It's not like sanding and painting where you can get it perfect. These things are, it's upholstery, so it's never really perfect. You got to be careful with it on this seat bottom, because they will want, they're so tight, they'll want to rip. You usually can get the fronts and then kind of work towards the back. It'll give you a little more room. Okay, we pretty much got that on there. Now I'll start hog ringing it. Okay, we're getting some more hog rings ready, and we'll. So far I've used about 300, about 250 per seat so far. Don't seem like there's that many hog ring rings. Okay. That's where the benefit of putting it on the floor. You put your knee on it, push that down. Okay, they got everything hog ringed. Now these little deals here, you can usually just hog ring them up and out of the way. They just kind of pull the tension.
You wouldn't want to cut those off, right?
No, you don't cut them off. You pull them and hog ring them to the spring, and it just kind of gives you a little tension here on the. Anyway, we hog ringed all the way around. You can take a razor blade or something, and where the posts stick out right here, just put a little X on it. And pop them down, and then it's perfect. There's our posts. That's why you want to cut them last, because then if you do it that way, they're in the exact right location, everything's tight around them. Now we can install our tracking system. These holes are already, you can see them. You can fill with your finger right here. Right here are the other two holes. So what I use on those is a big Phillips screwdriver, like that. And right where those holes are, just twist it, and it cuts a perfect little hole. This is for the tracks. There we got the holes for our tracks. Either side's the same. You just want to make sure that the adjustment handle is towards the front. Now we'll have a little bit of hardware. Okay, these have a adjuster between the two. That just goes in that handle like that. Across, usually like that one right there is going to give you the most leverage. Now the same screwdriver works for the bolt. And you just snug these up for now. You want to leave them a little loose so it has some movement. Then you can slide it back. The front one you can go ahead and tighten all the way. You can slide it back forward and tighten up the back one. And then we'll repeat for this other side. Line them up, and these have a little springs that hold this levers back. They have a notch they hook into. Then on this arm here has a big spring, hooks into that and hooks back into a little hole right there. And our tracks are installed. You can tighten this by turning it. That way they both pull at the same time. There's our seat back for the Deluxe. Has two clips that the backrest slides into. And then it has screws that hold the rest of it down. Okay, now our backrest has been out in the sun, all our wrinkles are out, everything's stretched out real nice. You can see the indentions right there, those are actually screw holes. And then at the very bottom corner, there'll be a hole right here. That's for the backrest stop. Take the big Phillips screwdriver and we'll make a hole right there. When you use that screwdriver, it goes in there and locks in and twists and it cuts that material perfect.
What size is the screwdriver?
It's just a big, I don't know exactly what size that is. It's probably measures 1/4 of an inch. And then the stop screws in there. This is your backrest adjustment. Rusting the threads. Yeah, it's got paint in it. Okay. These are the two little brackets that the back trim slides into. Find the hole. This is for the back trim, the Deluxe trim back. Involves the medallion on the front, and then it has the back trim, which is this complete hard back trim piece. This is the original one that came on the car. It's a C7B-6561617. Left side. This is what makes it special. Also, it has the side trim for the seat bottom. Yeah, these are the original. These are very expensive repo, and these are the original stuff. I had to do a few repairs on the backrest. The screw holes were stripped out. They were broken and they had big washers. So I went in there with an epoxy glue and repaired that. And then they had some cracks on both sides. So I repaired the cracks and then repainted. It had some chipping across the bottom that I repaired. So everywhere there's a little glue spot, that's a repair. But now they're a lot solid. And that's the original panel. And I completely glued up the holes here and re-drilled new holes. And then it had some smooth spots that were wore through the back that I actually sprayed a texture on and then did a repaint. Clean this stuff up, a little dusty. Okay, now we'll assemble the brackets on the base, and then we'll assemble the two pieces together and then put the trim on. This has 3 brackets that go on it. These 3 brackets are for the trim piece along the side. So we'll have to locate the holes and use the punch to mark them. Finding them could be a bit of a pain. Actually, sometimes easier to use the trim piece as a template to find where your holes are located.
Now, if somebody had never worked on one of these cars, they'd have to learn all this.
Yeah.
So that would make it a lot more time consuming, right?
Be a lot more time consuming, and also if you're using a regular seat base that didn't have this trim on it, because you can add this trim to a standard seat. If you're adding this to a standard seat and you can buy all these brackets, then you have to drill these holes and put them in the right location. We're kind of lucking out on this because the holes are already there, and we just got to find them and put the bracket back on. Original seat, original brackets, original trim. So it's just a matter of putting it right back where it was. So if you're not familiar with them and you do your homework, then it's not a big deal. But if you just start kind of jumping in and you don't know what to order and you don't know what pieces go where, then it's going to be a little bit of a challenge.
Another plate goes over here.
Yeah, it goes right on this edge of this frame. This little piece here will screw to this frame. I can't fill the holes. I'll skip that for now and put the front one in, and we'll line the this one goes towards the outside.
Four screws, huh?
Yeah, this takes a lot of screws and a lot of brackets. It's kind of amazing how much is involved on these deluxe trims.
Is that spacer?
Yeah, it's this little nylon spacer. Find the holes and then do the final. The original. Most of the times those would probably not be put back on there. I don't know if they reproduce them, but most people don't even know they go there. And it just keeps the bracket from digging into the upholstery, spaces it out a little bit. And our bracket fits like that. Now we'll put the backrest together and we'll put the trim on. Two more on the front and we will be done. Okay.